Stacy said she got asked a question when she went over to a university in the US recently about, like, someone was saying that they were going through a really tough time and how did she become so successful. And when she said that to me, I was like, wow, they really don't see that we've all had really, really dark patches, but you've just got to trust the process. So I used to have a piece of strapping tape stuck above my bedroom door that said, trust the process. I left it in that flat when I moved out, but I changed that saying. It used to be just trust the process, but then I added and make smart decisions. And then that kind of became my mantra for like that following year. And I was like, okay, trust the process, but make smart decisions. You can't just blindly trust the process. Yeah.
And there was a guy the other day who we chatted for 2 hours before we started recording. He's like, "Did you record that?" I was like, "No, we were just hanging out." But
Oh, shit. Yeah. And you're like, there's so much good stuff in that recording. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
with
So
you, how did you start your company? Like, I don't really know what that started like last time
Oh,
we chatted.
okay. Yeah. So, well, Stacey and I met Stacey like 6.5 years ago. So she originally used to have an office in the High Performance Center in the Adams Center. So we just met in the gym. Actually, she's had a double hip replacement. So she was doing like all her rehab from that. So she got hit off her bike by a van and ended up like shattering her pelvis and having to have like resurfacing surgery and everything on her face and stuff. So she was doing all her rehab on the watt bike there and just like getting strong again. And I just started as the assistant S&C, and I just saw her in the gym and I was like, hi, my name's Loretta. And then we just started like hanging out in the lunchroom and stuff. And then a couple of years ago, she asked me if I wanted to be her first employee. She had like a online community. And so basically she was like, I just want you to be keeping them engaged, like see what they're interested in, write some little articles in there, do some little quizzes with them and stuff. And so started working for her doing that. And now it's kind of rolled into like running her YouTube. So I have to like screen all the content from podcasts, make sure the science is still current and everything like that, make sure the subtitles don't have spelling mistakes, the fun stuff. So that's what I do for Stacy. But I guess it would have been like February last year. Nick Gill, the All Blacks S&C, him and I started an online company called Race Ready Endurance. And basically we were trying to target all the endurance athletes. So like your long distance runners, your Ironman, like 70.3 tri people, all those people that just do all this endurance stuff and never do the strength training. We were trying to target that market because Nick Gill personally does Ironman and I like coaching triathletes and stuff in the gym. We tried to get that up and running, and like I guess we kind of knew it. Like we see the need for strength training, but so many of those sports don't. And so like we tried really hard. We had like a little cohort of athletes and stuff, but it just never really like took off. But it was like the biggest crash course for me in like making sure I'm consistently uploading to Instagram, making reels. Oh my gosh, look back at my first reels, they're so bad. But like just like, making sure I had like a content schedule, figuring out what was going to work online and everything like that. So that was real cool. But Stacy and I had always had that. So basically I had a big trip to the US and El Salvador in August last year. And I had said to Stacy, when I come back, I'll help you with strength and conditioning. So she said, if you set yourself up properly online, we will, I'll launch you, but you have to have a website. Like the people that follow me need a good landing page and a website where they can find everything they want to find. And she's like, I'm a physiologist. I get asked to write programs all the time, but that's not my forte. And I want to have people that I can trust, that I can refer people to. So I'd always knew that I was coming back from that trip to do that. And then obviously Nick had kind of asked me coincidentally at the same time to do this thing with him. And because it was kind of not working out, it was kind of a good experience of like, okay, this isn't working, this does work. You need to be consistent, blah, blah, blah. So when I started my own thing in October last year, I kind of already knew what worked, what didn't work, what people wanted to see, how consistent I needed to be with posting. So I came back from my trip, did a whole lot of like filming and stuff with Stacy in September, set it all up, and then just launched in October, and then boom. Yeah, Stacy's already had quite a big following, so she had people already being like, we want help. So I had like a almost like automatic wait list. And then she said my name on the Mel Robbins podcast in March this year. And I got 30,000 followers on Instagram in a week. It was just like, boom. And I was like, oh my God. So like that, like it's definitely that whole thing of like exposure is
One
massive.
thing that was funny that you said was, and I've been chatting with a bunch of people about this recently, was when you look back at like your initial posts on like social media, like podcast episodes, YouTube, reels are huge because you got to get people going in the first like 3 seconds. What have you learned with reels? Because I feel like the algorithm always changes with respect to what they're looking for, and even like the size of what they want on Instagram is always kind of changing. But what did that look like for you?
What did I learn? Hire a videographer. Don't try to film it yourself. Don't edit it yourself. Get someone that's like, like it's that thing. Like we have coach's eye. We are like looking for these specific things. We know like the exact angles we're looking for. We know the movement patterns. We're looking for the kinetic chain. The videographers and the photographers are the same. They're like the lighting, this text style, blah, blah, blah. Like there's a reason why everyone that is elite has a coach or has an expert, and it's only ever amateurs that think they can do it on their own. So yeah, my advice is like, if you can, it would be find someone that's their thing, or at least go and sit down and have that conversation with them and be like, okay, well, from your perspective, what could I do better? Like I don't have a budget to pay someone, but point out top 5 things that you think if I did this, I'd get better. Yeah, but for me, I'm pretty lucky. My like one of my best mates, Shell, he's my videographer, and he also has a master's in sport and exercise science, and he's owned a couple of gyms, so he's like the perfect dude to be doing it. So
Yeah, I feel like the days are like over of someone like posting every single day for years on end and then making it big. It's like, no, it actually has to be good production quality, and the message has to be good as well. And I've like definitely seen that in your stuff, that it's like very professional, and like going back to that consistency piece is that people can rely on that. And like some of my favorite podcasts that I listen to, I know that they're going to come out with like 2 or 3 episodes a week. Whenever I'm like out running, I'm like, okay, today's the day. It's like going to drop on this day. And you build trust and rapport with your community.
Yeah, and I think it is that thing as well. Like you don't want to give them information fatigue. So the posting every day is kind of like, like whereas people are like, oh, Tuesdays and Thursdays. I know that I'm getting my little 90 second to 3 minute bit of information. And I think that's probably like with this podcast that's happening too, is like making sure that the episodes are not too long, like that they're digestible. Because I think like a lot of what we're hearing is, oh my gosh, like these podcasts are amazing, but they're 3 hours long, and so it's like I'm a Yui Boom in the bathroom person. Like when I'm getting ready for work, like 20-minute episode, half an hour episode, that's like digestible. So I think that's what I'm going to like try to aim for, is like digestible information. Maybe kind of like hit a theme of the month or something, and then be like, okay, 4 different things. Like each week we're going to be like creatine in adolescence, creatine in like pregnancy and breastfeeding, like have different like sections on the same topic or something. So I'm not quite sure how that's going to shape up, but yeah, open to ideas. Like I feel like in in our industry, in any industry, it's going to be like you learn the most from what other people are doing, and if you think that you can do it all on your own, it's probably not going to be the best. So
That's honestly, it's like one of my favorite things ever since I started recording this podcast. Like, I think I told you, like, I'd recorded like 45 guest episodes and I've only released like 12 because
mm,
like I want to be proactive. I want to keep this thing going and I want to get better at this thing and I love it so much. And what I really respected about you initially was like, I reached out with you maybe a month or two ago and then we scheduled a chat before we scheduled this. And I was like, you have this huge reach. You're super busy with your stuff, a lot of cool stuff going on, but you're like, hey, let's plan this out. Let's do this. And it's just like that friendliness, collaboration piece. What can we learn from each other? That
mm,
seems like those are the people you want to scout out and like work with and be friends with. Cause like there's so many other people too who I reach out with them and they're like, yeah, it's going to be $250 an hour for me to come on your show. And I'm like, you're not, no one has ever heard of you. Like what? And then I'm like, no, thank you. Hope you have a good day. I'm
yeah,
like, what?
yeah,
Like,
no. Yeah, I think I was actually going to ask you what you do for professional development because in New Zealand, I guess we always have like the same two strength and conditioning conferences. A lot of the time, it's the same people talking at them. Like pre-COVID, we had big names coming over, but since COVID, it's like the budgets aren't there anymore. I even flew over to an AIS, like Women in Congress conference, and it was again just like 10-minute PhD presentations, and it's like I just feel like the depth of like the conferences and the quality has kind of gone in New Zealand. I was really lucky this year to be on the High Performance Sport New Zealand Core Knowledge program, which is actually meant to be for sport coaches. So I was very lucky to be there as a strength and conditioning coach. I was on there actually through Surfing New Zealand, which is pretty cool. But that has been like the most useful professional development that I've had in a long time. So basically, High Performance Sports set up this coach development program that had like 4 different pillars. So there was like performance impact, body in motion, like a bunch of different topics, and then each pillar had like three-day courses. So you're meant to do the whole lot over 4 years. But they've cut all the funding as of 2026, so it's been discontinued. So I have my last one in a week. So I'm kind of looking for how to, I guess, what the next professional development stream will be. I applied for and got offered a role with Surfing and Skateboarding Australia earlier in the year, and I had to turn it down, which I thought that was going to be my dream job, but they wanted to put a restraint of trade on me, so that meant I could no longer work with Stacy, and I had to shut down my online business, and so I had to make that difficult decision of like turning that role down. But I reached out to Matt Haas at the Queensland Academy of Sport and Tony from Surfing Australia, and they're going to host me for some professional development next year. So that's pretty cool. So I like from my perspective, I think PD wise, I'm finding more benefit from actually like immersing myself in environments and like going in there with like I guess like a list of KPIs that I want to come away with, and also offering to them like, hey, like I work with Dr. Stacy Sims. She's a world leading physiologist in women's health. Like, do you want me to present to your athletes or your staff on like what I've been doing with Stacy? Or so I feel like I'm like got a reciprocal kind of relationship there. But yeah, keen to hear what you're doing for professional development as well.
it's interesting because people go to people like Stacy Sims and I don't know, Huberman, Atia, even like Mike Israel, people like that, they look to them for like the most up to date knowledge. And I think to an extent that could be really great and then maybe not so great because one of my like favorite analogies is like stay in your lane. And I think that some of these folks have like amazing information. They're very honest scientists. They put the most up to date information on the internet. Um, but it's like you're always going to have like almost like haters, so to speak, saying like, "Oh, I heard this," or "I don't want to hear this." And I know you're not new to like that
There's so
idea
many
of,
haters.
but it's funny because like now we're in this place too where it's like I'm a professor and I tell my students I'm like, "Hey, like I'm always updating my lecture slides semester to semester, even sometimes month to month because something came out, a research paper, this is what we think." And then I encourage my students, grad and undergrad, to go and be their own scientists and research on their own. And that's where we are right now in the world with social media. And I think podcasting might be my favorite invention since, like, I don't know, like the smartphone. I think podcasts are just so awesome. Um, but it's like also having that curious mind to say, I'm going to find the sources who I believe are giving the most up to date, unbiased scientific information and maybe take it upon myself to then go and like read the research. So you can be a part of professional organizations like ACSM, NSCA, or whatever you want to be, AHA, and then they can have some really brilliant conferences. But then also just reaching out to people too. And like with you working with Stacy, I mean, you very much do your homework and you work very hard. But then partnering with someone like that, it's like you're doing your homework, so to speak.
Yeah, and you've got to remember that like these people aren't AI. Like I think people on the internet forget that. Like all these scientists that are going out there and researching, the reason they're researching is because there's not data currently there. Like that, they're the pioneers a lot of the time. They're doing the first ever tests on this, or it's not like they're going in and doing repeatability, like the follow-up studies to be like, oh yes, this is proven. Like a lot of the time they're like, okay, we went away and we looked at this and this is what we found. And then a couple of years later, new research comes out and it's debunked. But the podcast or the whatever is still on the internet. And then people are coming in going, well, you said this and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, cool. 5 years ago, that was the latest, And I think the other thing as well is there's a lot of people in like S&C realm, analyst realm, and they are absolute and data driven. And you've got to remember, we're dealing with people, and you can't just have data and absolutes with people. They have crappy night's sleeps. They have fights with their partners. Like they've got a new puppy. Like things are going on in their life that you can't put people in a box. It's like you're going to have to go in there and have some actual people skills and be able to adapt to how they are on the day. And yeah, it's not science, it's an art, really. Like we've got science behind us, which is like our underpinning guidance and guidelines, but you've got to put the art on top. And that's why we as coaches won't get replaced with AI. And I think if you go like talk to some really good people in like the athlete development space, like Don Tricker from the Padres, he'll tell you that you can't just like copy and paste a model that works in one environment and plonk it into your own. You can be like, okay, that idea is really good, copy that, but you have to adapt it to your environment, to the people who are in your environment before you implement it. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. It's going to fail. So, like, for as a culture piece, because there's a lot of when you go into high performance environments, they are not sanitized labs. They have culture, and the reason they're successful is because they have the culture piece, and it's going really well.
What has been your experience with that, with yourself and you working with Stacy? Because now that you have rightfully so gotten this huge platform where you're a leading voice in this, sports science space, have you taken quite a bit of hits on the internet for maybe something that you had said or didn't say. And it's like, hey, caveat, like we're all scientists here. Sometimes things get debunked and that's okay. But yeah, people take AI for gospel, and it's like, well, no. AI can be brilliant, but like it will have inconsistencies. So you do need to read the research. You need to have the, you know, applied science. You need to actually be in there and do it. What has been your experience with that?
Yeah, I think the thing is as well, like just because you necessarily like agree again with someone's like underpinning values doesn't mean that you agree with absolutely everything they say either, you know? So like Stacey's always talking about like lifting heavy, sprint interval training. She's speaking to like her specific demographic. Doesn't mean that I'm not doing hypertrophy and triphasic training and French contrast because I'm in the high performance world and that's what I do. I'm like, cool, like what she's saying, I agree with it. I think it's great, but like I am still banging out 12 pull-ups because I enjoy it and that's what I want to do. Like so yeah, I think it's that thing. It's like, again, don't take everyone as an absolute, and it's that thing of like, again, building your own culture, your own thing. You go, oh yeah, like that, don't like that. It doesn't mean that you don't have to be their friend, or like, yeah, I just a lot of the stuff on the internet that is the haters is people saying that you have to be really polarized in your thoughts and stuff, and it's like, no, like, yeah, take the pieces that are working for you, implement the information that resonates with you, and build your own environment. And I think like I've really done that at the Adams Center. I've been very, very lucky with that environment. So just a little bit about the high performance center that I work at. So it's in Mount Maunganui in New Zealand. It is probably, I think it's only one of two high performance centres in the country that is not government funded. So we're actually owned by the council, which is pretty cool. So that meant that I got to create the criteria to apply. So we have anyone that is from a regional sporting organisation or national sporting organisation. Basically, you have to be ranked top 10 nationally to be able to come into the centre. And then we'll check with like your national sporting body that they want you in there. But it has meant that, so like with high performance sport, you have to be like an Olympic sport, and they also have to be a medal prospect sport. So not all Olympic sports in New Zealand get funding, so it's only a few. So it means, from my perspective, that I do get to work with pro Ironman because that's not an Olympic distance. I work with pro motocross riders because that's not an Olympic sport. Yeah, so it's just wakeboarding, Muay Thai, kickboxing. So the breadth of athletes, because we are not under the government umbrella, is a lot broader. And the Adams Centre's in a really cool place. So we're right by the beach. Beach is 100 meters that
Yeah,
way.
I see the palm trees. Yeah.
I have my green cruiser bike called Shrek, and I just ride that
You
to
call it
work.
Shrek?
Yeah, it's called Shrek. Ride Shrek to
Best
work
movie
every day.
franchise.
Yeah, so ride that to work every day. And then like the centre used to be an old cosy club, so an old pub that they've repurposed. And so we've got the international cricket ground, an international hockey ground, international speed climbing wall, rugby fields, netball, tennis, squash, and bowls. So we're in the middle of like this big sporting hub. And then within the centre, we have the NPC, which is like semi-professional men and women's rugby. We've got the All Black and Black Fern Sevens Olympic Sevens teams based out of my centre. And then we've got cricket, netball, basketball franchises, as well as like a sports doctor and a physio. And then my academy that has 110 athletes and just over 30 different sports. So I have 5 other strength and conditioning coaches under me. So it's pretty cool.
Was that always the goal, to work at a place like the Adams Center and then have the autonomy that you get to have and with such a diverse clientele?
Yeah, so I did an internship with High Performance Sport New Zealand when I was finishing my master's thesis. And I guess I decided that I never wanted to work for them. I was just like, it was very dog eat dog environment. There was a lot of egos. The way that the strength and conditioning coach roles get made up at high performance sport is you might have like point 0.2 from sailing, point 0.4 from kayak, and you've got to build a whole role from all these like little bitty roles. So everyone's there to like squash each other, push each other out of the way. No one's sharing ideas. Like, don't look at what I'm doing. Like, and I was just like, it was the ugliest thing I've ever experienced. And I was like, I don't want to work in. I don't want to work in this. Um, there was a really cool guy called Dean Watkins, and he was working with the New Zealand Sevens program, and Sevens only centralised in 2018. And he was like, "Oh, they're centralising down at Mount Maunganui. I'll see if they've got like an intern role down there for you." And I was like, "Okay, cool." And he came back and he was like, "Sevens aren't doing an intern program. Bay of Plenty Rugby want someone for their women's program." And I was like, "Yep, sweet." So again, moved my entire life down. didn't have didn't have a job to go to or anything. So like finished my masters, moved down here, was working in a surf shop like 48 hours a week, and then doing all my coaching stuff either side of it, and for free. And then eventually through the grind, a part-time assistant role came up at the centre, and I got that, and so I was in the door. And it was, again, it's because people get to see you consistently showing up. So like the manager of the centre got to know who I was and said, "Hey, this role's coming up, and you should apply for it." And I was like, "Okay, great." And then so I got my foot in the door there, and then the head S&C at the centre ended up moving on to the cricket franchise that's based out of there. And I applied for that role, and I was against people from like South Africa and everything, like overseas and stuff. And I ended up getting that role, and I was just like, boom. So that's how I kind of worked my way up through the Adams Centre. And at that time, it was just one full timer. So that was me, and then a part time S&C. And I think we only had I think we might have had 50 athletes. And so over the last few years, it's just got bigger and better, and our athletes are larger on the world stage, which is pretty cool. And I've got to redo the gym, like full refurb twice now, which is pretty cool. Like change all the layout, order the color of the track that I wanted, like pick all the equipment. Oh yeah, so like that gym now is like it's my absolute dream gym, and I got to pick it, and so it's pretty cool to like go in there and do my workouts and use 4 platforms at once.
You're the person doing bicep curls in the squat rack.
100%, that's me. And then I like really struggle when I go like on holiday or like go to visit my parents. I'm in like a commercial gym and I can't even do a superset, and I'm like, oh no, what's going on?
It's interesting that rise. Did you start out skateboarding and surfing?
Um, my sport through school was mainly competitive surf lifesaving. So no, not really. I wasn't doing any like extreme sports. And then I went down to university in Otago, and I'd never seen snow before. So
Ooh,
yeah, so I just saw snow, fell in love with snow, and then just
that's new.
started on this
Okay.
like crazy snowboard journey. So I was like doing back to back winters, and yeah, just through that, like the people that do those sports, I started surfing when I was 21. Um, and I guess because I had such a good background of being in the ocean, and I knew how to read rips, and I knew all the waves and stuff, I just like picked up surfing like that. So just kind of got into this whole like surfing, snowboarding, skating scene, and just loved the board sports. But it eventually ended up being like my downfall. I'd had a few too many concussions, and I'd had quite bad injuries like a back fracture and broken elbows and stuff like that. And so I was kind of like, well, what am I doing? I can keep probably snowboarding for a few years because I had a sponsor that I'd get like boards and helmets and gloves and stuff from, but I wasn't really getting money. I'd get like $200 from a rail jam or something random, but like not enough to like sustain it. And so I was just kind of like, well, what am I doing? I had dropped out of university, so like I'd done a couple of years of a nutrition degree, and then decided that no, the snowboarding world was for me. And so I was like, I'm going to end up being quite beaten up and have no career. And I kind of was like, well, like my journey through coaching of all my sports was not the best. Like the advice for like when I was doing my surf lifesaving racing was like, oh, if you lost 3 kilos, you'll win nationals, which is terrible advice. So, and like just things like that, like even with all my breaks in my snowboarding, I didn't start gymming until I actually had the injuries. Whereas if I'd been proactive and done the gym first, I probably wouldn't have been dislocating my knee and breaking everything. So I kind of had that like epiphany in my last season in Tahoe that I wanted to go back to uni and study coaching. So I ended up coming back and starting like midway through the year. So in New Zealand, year at school always starts, January and then runs to December. So I came in and started in semester 2. And started a Bachelor of Sport and Recreation, double major in coaching and sport management, and did that at AUT. And I guess because I was a little bit older, I was the annoying one in the lecture hall that was asking questions because I wasn't embarrassed. So I feel like I got a lot out of it, and it was actually really interesting watching the coaching cohort shrink over the 3 years. I think we started out with like 150 in the coaching papers, and then by year 3 we had 12. So like it was really the people that were like super passionate about it. And then from there I kind of went away and tried to see what jobs I could get, and could not find anything I wanted with just my bachelor's. Tried for like a year or so, and then my lecturers had been trying to get me back for a while. They're like, here's some scholarships. And I was like, oh, okay. So I ended up coming back and doing my postgraduate diploma and my master's thesis at AUT, in conjunction with Paralympics New Zealand and the New Zealand Artificial Limb Service. So I did a really cool thesis on Paralympians with limb deficiency and their sporting journeys through sport. And then I was coinciding that with my high performance sport strength and conditioning internship as well. So that's kind of like how I've come through the system and why I wanted to get into coaching.
So it was a no to nutrition the first time around.
Yeah, I think I remember doing like a placement with this nutritionist lady, and it was like in this dark room in a corner of a gym, and I was like, I don't think that's me. Like, I was like, no, I want to be. I have ADHD, but I only got diagnosed with it a few months ago. But I think I've always known I've had it, but there was like no way I was going to be sitting down for 8 hours a day.
No, it's funny because like that's nutrition and like dietetics is like so important, but also it's like almost so like faux pas to talk about on the internet because like unless you have like a degree in that, like everyone's going to be like, oh, like nutrition this, nutrition that. They're going to argue over everything. And it's funny because I teach graduate level nutrition, And all of
Yeah.
my research in my dissertation work was in nutrition. Um, but I try not to talk about it too much because I know people are going to start, throwing the red flag of, oh, I heard this and I heard this. And it's like, you made the space for yourself within the coaching sphere. And as you said, your cohort went from like 150 to 12, and you rose up the ranks one by one by one by one by one over the past few years. And look how you got here. And it's like, you're passionate about something and you're just going to be bullheaded and go for it anyway. And not a lot of people can say that because they'll just choose the easy route, the AI route, what's like the quickest money route. And you're like, no, I'm gonna do what I truly love to do until one day you're really valued for what you do. And it's
Yeah.
admirable with the coaching
I
thing.
think the other thing as well is, and I'm sure you probably see it with like your students and stuff, is well, for a while there, you try to be liked by everyone, and no one's ever liked by everyone, like, so for me, I know that people either they love me and they gel with me, or they absolutely cannot stand me, and that is fine, like, and that is why I feel like even like the personalities and the stuff, people that I've picked for like the strength and conditioning coaches that I work with, it's like there's a lot of ego in our industry, and and I've really curated a team of people that they they leave their ego aside. They're there because they want to be there. They want to learn. We all have different strengths. So, like Jordan, he's like so great at data. He loves the testing. He digs into the numbers. That's just his jam, And like for me, I feel like, yeah, like I like to explore like the neuroscience stuff about, like, how are we priming the brain for learning, like what are we going to do here, like what games are we going to do, and it's more like that coaching space, and that's what I really like. So, like it means that when we are looking at what we want to do for professional development, we're going out like this, and then we come back and then we share ideas, and it's like, I think, yeah, it's that there are a lot of egos in this industry, and there are people that are going to want to like say you're doing something wrong and stuff like that, and you're going to be like, okay, cool, that's your opinion, like just, and maybe it will become my opinion, but right now it's not. So like I'll listen to you, I'll hear what you have to say, I'll go give it a go. If it doesn't work, yeah, okay, cool, move on. Yeah. So yeah, I think it's picking who you want to work with really well, and that thing about, I've I felt like through my time, like I think people see when you're successful, they're like, you just got there, like everyone on their grind has had horrible, nasty sticking points, and where you've wanted to give up and it hasn't worked. But the thing that I've learned is the right people don't make it hard for you. So like I got told by a mentor at High Performance Sport that I'd never make it in rugby. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, oh, you're never going to be one of the boys. You're never going to be able to have a beer in the changing rooms, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay. And then I get down to Mount Maunganui. I bump into Nick Gill, head strength and conditioning coach for the All Blacks, the best rugby team in the world. And he was like, do you want to come to an All Blacks camp in Auckland? And I was like, yes. And, like I've been on like 6 All Blacks camps. I've been there for their like World Cup prep, doing their hamstring testing, doing their 5-meter speed, like he didn't care that I hadn't gone through the weird system of rugby coaching to like get to go work with them, because in New Zealand it's like a boys network. You have to start here, and then you have to be at NPC, and then you have to be at Super and work your way up. And he was just like, nah, I like what you're doing. I can see that you want to learn, and come along. And so like we're really good friends now. And I think that was the same thing with Stacy. It's like they see that you're committed, they see that you want to learn, they see that you don't think that you're right in what you're doing, like I'm very open to learning new ways, new techniques. I know I don't know everything, so just gotta, yeah, and don't be afraid to ask that person that you think you want to be your mentor if you can hang around with them, because like majority of the time, if they're a cool person, they're going to be like, heck yeah, come along. So I'm sure you've found that too.
Oh, it's the biggest thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny. I love one of my favorite things that you've said so far today was that like the most successful people, the hardest working, highest agency, highest influence people all have mentors and coaches. And it's like, look at, I don't know, like look at any professional athlete. You coach them every single day. Or in like on my side of the ocean, you know, like LeBron James, right?
Mm,
Like best basketball player currently. He has coaches with him all day long with like, I don't know, stress reduction and strength and conditioning and the shooting coaches, the head coaches, the dietetics, the dietitians he sees. And he's the best for a reason.
mm-hmm,
And I think with that, it's funny because my mom always told me, never be afraid to send someone like a thank you note, either over email, text, give them a call, write it out on a piece of paper and just be like, hey, like, I really appreciate you. Thank you for your time. And
mm-hmm.
I've done that with every one of my podcasts so far, that I write like a very, um, like not copy and paste, like a very heartfelt thank you note to every single person. I really mean it. And I did that with one of my professors who I'd had in university about 8 years ago. And I recently saw him last year at like our local mall because he was just in the area for some odd reason. I went up to him, shook his hand, he gave me a hug, and then he told his whole lab group, he's like, I saw this one student who he was always in my class, he was always shaking my hand, always asking me questions. And he goes, that's why I do what I do. And it's like, yeah, it's like my follow up question to all of that too is going to be like, how much of this is a game of like just asking questions and being grateful for their feedback? And it seems like that's kind of the theme of this episode today.
Yeah, massively. And like it's even like, you were saying like LeBron, he's a basketball player, but he's going to all these different people. So even like from my perspective, like with my mentors, when I think about who are my mentors, so I've recently reached out to a guy. He's called Mitch Lowe. He owns two companies. Well, he actually owns 57 companies, and he's like similar age to me. But his big one,
57.
yeah.
Holy cow.
So I listened to a podcast that he was on, and I was just like, this guy sounds like my type of guy. And so I like messaged him on Instagram, and I was like, hi, can we go for coffee, please? And he was like, sure. And so he owns companies that bring in like artists to New Zealand. So like big DJs like Fisher and all of that. So like I personally love drum and bass, so I was kind of idolizing him because he brings in all my favorite artists. But I just wanted someone that like looked at everything from a different perspective. So he said like his specialty is partnerships and partnerships with internationals. So like for me, it was like, okay, cool. Well, I'm just suddenly starting to deal with all these people on the other side of the world. So like your perspective of what you can bring me is really cool. And then the Adams Centre is named after a philanthropist called Sir Paul Adams. And his family still supports my athletes. So they pay for, because not all our athletes are full time. So they might be working full time jobs and then also being the top on their field for what they do, such as my Muay Thai kickboxer who's got her world title fight. She's a draftswoman, so she draws houses during the day and then kicks ass by night. But so she self funds herself in there, and the Adams family pays for them to see the sports psychologist, the dietitian, any lab testing they need, and their all their strength and conditioning subsidized as well. So like him and his family are really cool because they own a property development group. So just from a perspective again of like business and how partnership deals work, and just how they want to give back to sport in the community is pretty cool, because they not only put a lot of money into the Adams Centre, they also help build the international cricket ground, the local cricket club. Yeah, lots of stuff around here. So it's like don't think you just have to stay in the sport bubble when you're thinking of people for mentoring. There's like people out there that have similar personalities to you, but they're doing like way left field things. And you can always, again, pick the pieces that you think are relevant to what you're doing and apply them. And then, yeah, and that's how you're going to end up with your cool little thing that you're doing. So, yeah, again, values can be similar, but they don't need to. You don't need to be agreeing with everything that they do.
I think that's such a healthy perspective, and that needs to be talked about more and shouting out from the rooftops. And I'll be really excited to listen in on your podcast when you start dropping episodes, because I don't listen to other physiology episodes. Like I'm like my PhD is in human physiology, and I teach a lot of anatomy, nutrition. I have like a lot of clients and stuff. But I'm like, I'll do the occasional Peter T episode, the occasional Huberman, but in general, I listen to all like philosophy, self-help, business, entrepreneurial. And like I could tell you the names of like so many books that I've read and listened to and taken notes, and I've emailed the authors. And it's like it's all about like businesses and finance and self-help and leadership and community building. I just reached out with 50 leadership people over the past few days to come on my show. And I have a few
Mm,
people coming on and completely unrelated fields. And I was chatting on the phone with this guy, and he was like, "Why do you want me on the show?" I was like, because I kind of want to be sitting in the seat that you're sitting in. You have all this influence. You can help people. I want to
mm.
learn from you. Like I already know nutrition and exercise science. That's fun, whatever. Teach me about the things that I don't know. Let me broaden my horizons. And I think it helps. And that's exactly what you're saying. And it's a brilliant student mentality of you're never done learning and you're never done growing.
Well, there's also a reason why you're seeing now, like a lot of the time they're coming to like us in the sports industry and they want us to be coming into like businesses like Zespri International and like teaching their business people how to do things is because like the coaching skills are really, really important. And they're also like, like the way we adapt how we teach a skill depending on the individual is such a good skill to have, and it's not just applicable to sport. Like, you go into a business, not everyone's doing their work the same or learning the same or like listening the same in a meeting. Some people are drawing a picture and other people are doing other things. So it's like it's about being transferable. And like I said about the professional development, like just always being curious, always, I guess I'm always planning so far ahead in like what I want to be doing and who I want to be reaching out to. Um, yeah, so that's kind of I guess the always asking why is probably, I'd say, one thing that I feel like I do better than others.
Do you think, based on, because you had said you had dropped out of college and then came back to college and you were not afraid to ask questions? And I truly believe that the Socratic method is probably the best way of learning, of just ask and ask and ask. And I also love the Feynman way of teaching, of if you want to say that you understand something at the highest level, you have to first teach it to like a first grader, teach it to a 5-year old, and then graduate it up to like an eighth grade level and then a college level. And I always have my students do several presentations throughout the course of the semester. I'm like, hey, talk to me about glycolysis, which is the breaking down of carbohydrates for usable energy. Explain that to me like I'm 5 years old. Explain it to me like I'm an eighth grader or general public, and then explain it to me as a university student. And I think that you had like that time with all of your snowboarding. You're like, okay, I love this, but I'm getting dinged up, getting all the concussions. It's not working. Let me go back, cross all the T's, dot all the I's. And now you're in this position where you're like, I'm a forever student, even though you're starting to get more and more and more and more successful. If you continue on being a student, the sky's the limit.
I think also the thing is like it's that passion piece, right? So okay, like when I first came out of school, because I like art, so I wanted to do fine arts, and my dad was like, "Never going to make any money out of art." And I was like, oh, okay. And so then I like that that passion that I really wanted to like go to university and do got taken away. And I was like, well, I guess I like food. so so it was like I kind of just went to university straight from high school because that's what everyone was doing. So like the passion was missing. Whereas like when I went away and I did, I think I had about like 5 year gap or something. Like it was pretty decent. When I came back, I really knew what I wanted to do. I was like, I want to be a coach and I want to be a really good coach and I want to make sure that no girl repeats like the journey that I had through sport, which is coaches telling you to lose weight with no direction and like kind of struggling with my eating and just like getting injured before I do the strength and just all of those pieces that just, like almost could have been prevented. I was definitely severely under fueling. I like 100% had LEA, probably had REDS. So yeah, just the educating the girls, like the first question I had when all my little girls come into the gym, I'm like, what did you eat for afternoon tea? And we're like, whoa, avocado and toast. And just like making the conversations like normal and like, yeah, it's great. So I can already see like there's a big shift in this like next generation of like female athletes that are coming through.
That's a huge, platform, in the sense of like that is so important to be talking about. And we had studied a little bit about like Red S and then like the female athlete triad. And I am hoping that those conversations start to become a lot more encouraging and educational and um, encompassing of like, hey, like we need to be fueling because we need to be strong and we need to be healthy. And that's an important piece. So I'm happy that like you're turning that around for the better part.
Yeah, yeah. It's almost like we have academy toast. So like if you haven't eaten, you have to go upstairs and you have to eat some academy toast. Got peanut butter or honey, or you can put peanut butter and honey on there. Yeah. So like the kids will always have to eat something before gym, which is good.
You called it, what was it, afternoon tea?
Afternoon tea. Yeah. We have morning tea and afternoon tea in New Zealand. What do you guys call it?
Is that like breakfast and lunch?
No. So you have breakfast, lunch, dinner, and then you have morning tea and afternoon tea. So like morning tea is at like 10:30 and then like afternoon tea is at like 3.
Is that a snack or is that like you have
Yeah.
tea?
No, it's a snack. It's like your banana and yogurt or whatever.
That's literally what I just had before we recorded this. I had
Yeah.
2 bananas and 2 Greek yogurts, and like that was
Yeah.
my snack because dinner will be after this. So that was my
Yeah.
afternoon tea. Okay.
Yeah. That's what everyone calls it here, afternoon tea.
What I'm curious to know. What what would you like to accomplish in the next maybe 5 to 10 years? And I think
I asked
that's like
this the other day. I was like, well, I don't know.
that's a scary and robust enough question where I'm like, hey, like if you could do anything, what would you do? Because you have a ton of energy and you're growing and you're growing and you're growing. You're telling me about this new podcast you're going to be launching, which I think is amazing. I'm like, what would you want to accomplish? You have this beautiful Atom Center you're working at, and it's like, you get to choose the weights and the color of the turf, and you get to work with the athletes. You get to take up 4 squat racks all at the same time. What else do you want to do?
Oh, see, that's the thing. Like, I am a big goal setting person, so I have like my little journal, and I guess like I do a thing at the end of the year where I do like a reflection piece, and I get my journal from the like start like year before where I wrote everything down, and I go through and I kind of like see if I've achieved what I wanted to. But I feel like I wrote this year. I said I want to feel like my career is limitless was one of the goals. So it was, and underneath it was just go as far as you can in 12 months as you possibly can go. So it was like basically a say yes to every opportunity that comes your way. Um, and see what happens. I mean, like I did read the book Essentialism this year, which talks about like stop being like so like like direct your energy in one direction. Um, so I guess like with what I am doing, I'm trying to stay in my lane, stay in like the niche of like women's health on the online space. And then obviously when I'm in the high performance space, I'm doing my high performance stuff. But really, I think it's like I don't know where this is going or how big it can be. Like I'm in New Zealand, we're down the bottom of the world. We're so far from anywhere. It takes like you know, I think the closest flight is San Fran and it's 12 hours, you know. So like really if I can do if I can do it from here, who knows? Yeah. So I think I've got really cool people around me like Stacy and Shell and um yeah, I think who knows where this can go. Like I said, start a podcast. I think it was again from the it's just from being consistent, seeing that there's a demand from the reels that we have, that people want long form content. So it was kind of like, well, we're filming these reels anyway, so why don't we make it bigger and then it can be chopped into reels because then we're kind of hitting everyone's needs. And I've liked when it's Stacey's YouTube isn't that old, so like I've really liked learning about that YouTube space. So again, it was that thing. Stacey was like, "Do you want to like run my YouTube channel?" And I'm so bad at technology. I don't know what I'm doing. I was like, "Sure." So again, I've like gone into this thing where I'm like learning all about how to set up a YouTube and how content scheduling happens and like I'm in a multi-tab bloody spreadsheet checking thumbnails to make sure the photo of Stacey looks pretty. You know, like doing all of this stuff. So it's like and even like I registered as a company in April at the start of the financial year. I feel like it's almost like doing a PhD in business. Like it's something new, it's refreshing. You're always learning. And again, because of that, you're asking different people questions and again, taking their ideas. And it's just cool. Yeah. So I think for me, I'm not sure where it's going, but I'm enjoying the process because again, if you're outcome driven, as we know in sport, it's not going to work out for you. So if you're process driven, you're going to enjoy the journey and it's going to, you know, I think the other thing is I've thought a lot of things were going to happen in this last year and they either haven't or they've like circled back like 5 months later. So it's again, same thing with like my career in general. Like not everything is going to happen on your set timeline. Same as like with the research and the data, like you can't confine everything to a box. So you almost have to do action research learning and just be like, okay, that worked. What would I like to change? Do my reflection piece, come back around. Um, yeah, so who knows where this is going because what I think it's going to look like on paper right now is not what it's going to look like next year.
Do you enjoy the process?
Yeah, yeah, totally. Like I said, it's like it's exciting, it's cool, it's you know, it was the reason I reached out to like Mitch Lowe um and people like that because they're business heads and that's what they're good at. And it's almost feel like even my role at the Adams Center, like I wouldn't position myself as an expert in almost anything, but I feel like I'm a connector and I'm like, okay, well, I know this person and they're really good at that. And so like I can bring them in and they can do this. And then I feel like I'm really good at doing this integration thing. Um, and I think even being like a good uh, boss or head of department, it's about almost hiring people that are smarter than you. That's where you're going to like get the knowledge and the synergy and the everything. Don't think you as the head of anything knows everything. be like, okay, well, these people are really good in these areas. And I think also as well, like when you are dealing with quite a few people that are really good academics, they don't back themselves, and they almost need someone like me to be like, you are the man, get up there. You can do this, like I don't mind being the cheerleader in the pink hat.
Yeah, just surrounding yourself with the best team possible and always asking questions and like always learning. It's the best thing about it. And I love what you said about being a connector. I don't know if you got that like from like the Malcolm Gladwell tipping point that you have to find. Yeah, that's probably like the best book I don't know ever written, like ever. It's called
I'll write that down.
yeah, I literally I've been taking notes that you've been talking the entire time. Like I keep like looking down because you're talking about so many things. I'm like, I want to look them up. I want to like remember this. I have like a whole notebook that I'm like making with all my guests where I just take notes the entire time.
Cool.
But yeah, the tipping point, connectors, mavens, and salesmen. And it's like if you want to start a word of mouth epidemic, you need to find the connectors in your community. And you are certainly a connector. If you kind of know everyone, that gives you the most amount of power because you have resources. It's like they talk about the law of comparative advantage in that you should stay in your lane and do your whole thing with like coaching and the women's health and doing everything you're doing on social media. Amazing. But like, don't try and fix your screen door. Don't try and like run a farm to make food. Don't try and do your own plumbing. Hire people for that.
Don't make your own reels.
Exactly. You're coming back, like hire a professional, make your own reels. They're going to look way better. And that's what it
Hire
is.
someone
If
else
you're a
to
connector, you're good to
success.
go. But that's it. It's the people like if you think about it, it's like who's the person who introduced you to like everyone else? It's going to be like the same one or two people. They're connectors. They're just genuinely curious in just about everything. And I feel like you're definitely one of those people who's curious about just about everything. And that's what made you so successful. You're like, okay, I like to ask a lot of questions. I like to work really hard. Boom, opportunity. And here we go.
Mm, And also, like again, what you're seeing on social media, it's not all real. Like you've got to understand, like there is so much hard work and grit and grind and graft behind everything. Like I've been working 7 days a week for like 2 years because like I was working on my website a year before it launched. I was working on other stuff. Like that's the things that people aren't seeing. It's like, it's that same thing of like, even if you're a swimmer, like think of all the hours that you put in at the pool before that one performance. And then people are like, oh my God, you won a national title, blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, yeah, but you didn't see that I spent like 9 sessions a week looking at the floor of a pool. Like, it's you people need to remember that, like, you have to show up on those days that you don't want to show up. And like, even like with coaching, like there will be days where you're feeling absolutely flat, but an athlete needs you to be bouncy and on point and giving them advice because maybe they're having an even worse day. So it's like, just I think Stacy said she got asked a question when she went over to a university in the US recently about like, someone was saying that they were going through a really tough time and how did she become so successful. And when she said that to me, I was like, wow, they really don't see that we've all had really, really dark patches, but you've just got to like trust the process. So I used to have a piece of strapping tape stuck above my bedroom door that said trust the process. I left it in that flat when I moved out, but I changed that saying. It used to be just trust the process, but then I added and make smart decisions. And then that kind of became my mantra for like that following year. And I was like, okay, trust the process, but make smart decisions. You can't just blindly trust the process.
Yeah, I have a very similar thing. I have two yellow sticky notes, and one of them says the process, and another one says 2,130. And like Lou Gehrig was one of my favorite baseball players. Obviously, like he played before we were born, but he showed up every single day and played for the New York Yankees for 2,130 games before he got ALS. And it's like he was like an okay baseball player, but he was like had almost all of like the hitting titles and the defensive titles because he never missed a day of work. Even with like he broke every one of his fingers. He had back pain, he had migraines, like he played through fevers. And so I remind myself every day, 2130, show up even if you don't want to, and to trust that process. And I look at it in the mirror 10 times a day when I go into the bathroom, to go to the bathroom, to brush my teeth, to shower. I'm like, I look at the two note cards and I'm like, okay, I'll show up today.
And I think probably another thing, uh, like for someone that is specifically working with coaches or other cohorts, that I think is a massive, massive learning. And I think some people, again, with that, they let ego maybe get in the way, or again, maybe not ego, it might be the data, is when you're working with coaches and when you're working with athletes and when you're working with people, is you might think you have the ideal program in your head that is going to work for an athlete and it's going to give them the best results. But again, because you're working with people, you need to realize that, first of all, you have to get buy-in. And so the first season that you work with someone, it might be 90% what the coach wants and what the athlete wants, and 10% what you want. And then as you've got that rapport and that trust, that's when suddenly that coach will be like, oh yeah, I know what she's doing is in line with what I want, and the athlete's happy and stuff like that. So that second season, it might be 50-50. And then by that third season, you might be able to absolutely nail what you want to be doing and what you want to be achieving. So sometimes it doesn't matter if you think that you've got the perfect periodization and you know exactly, like, here's the comp dates, this is when we're doing this, this is when we're doing this. If the athlete hates it, or if their coach hates it, they're going to go somewhere else and they're not going to work with you. So it's about that connection piece. It's about remembering that you're working with people, and that people are not algorithms, and people are not ChatGPT, and people are not research papers. And that is probably one of the biggest tips that I can say to up and coming coaches is don't try to fit everyone into what you think the ideal is, and work with them, because you're going to get more out of them and you're going to have better relationships with the entire team, because you've got to remember that as a S&C or a physiologist, you're part of the type team. So you're going to be involved in everything. You're going to be involved in their injury. They're going to be talking to you about their personal lives and what's going up and what's going down. You're part of the whole process. You're not just there as like a stay in your lane coach. You're actually going to be a lot more than that.
Do you think that the best coaches are the ones who are able to meet their athletes? Even if they've been a coach for 20, 30 years, they say, okay, every single athlete is completely unique. And my goal is to meet them where they are, to help them with their long-term athlete development. And I can even learn from that athlete.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, 100%. I think, yeah, that athlete buy-in, and also that athlete relationship. Like, I just love when I just see some of the athletes walk into the gym and then they see me and their like face lights up because they've got something, like some gossip to tell me. They've got, just they've got chat, like they want to tell you how their day was, or and the fact that, like, maybe if we are going to go and like do the periodization plan, we're like going down to a local cafe and we're having our lunch and we're having a yarn about everything. It's not just about, okay, we're planning for the T100 in Qatar. Like, we can talk about that, but we can also have fun while we're doing it. It doesn't always have to be just like nitty gritty nuts and bolts. And when you're starting to work with athletes on the level I am, you've got to remember that, like, their coach is in Germany and they speak German, and like stuff, but like there's going to be language barriers, and then their physio is in Colorado, and then their swim coach is in Belgium. And so, like, that, again, that connecting piece and being able to have a relationship with all those different people, that's actually one of the biggest pieces of feedback that I've had from these international like physios and coaches and stuff, is they're like, wow, like, thank you so much for the communication that you have. We appreciate, like, you reaching out, and we've now got like really strong relationships, which is really awesome. And it's about like don't just fire off emails. Like you said, we had a catch up prior to this, and we could just be firing off emails. But again, I find like even with texts and WhatsApp messages and stuff, you're missing that whole the context and the how someone's articulating something, their hand gestures, like especially if they're from Europe. Like you want to like be able to read your people.
That's brilliant. How much have you had to learn that even year to year as you've been a coach? Like, what was that progression like for you when you first started out versus where you are now? Has there been any stepwise increases in your learning capability or your coaching capability, or is every case specifically different? And that's what excites you about this.
I think, yeah, so like in New Zealand, if you're like an Olympic athlete, they've got like individual performance plans, and like the athlete has to sit down at the beginning and the end of a campaign. So, and write down who their tight team is. So that'll be, yeah, like coach, physio, S&C, whatever, whoever they want to be in it. So some athletes will have a tight team of 10, and then others only have a tight team of 3. And so I guess then that is also how like the sporting body will fund them. So like Athletics New Zealand will give people a certain amount of funding, and then the expectations are put in their individual performance plans, their IPPs. And so I guess from a strength and conditioning or just a coach perspective, it's watching who wants to take ownership of it. So like who's setting up the WhatsApp group, and so a lot of the times, I don't know, like if you leave it to the athlete, it's not gonna it's not gonna happen. Like you got to remember, even people like Sam Tanner or like Hayden Wild and stuff, like they're just boys. Like sometimes it's just you could take the thing and be like, okay, cool, I'm setting this up, and yeah. So yeah, sometimes I just make sure that I'm either like jolting the comms along or making sure I'm chiming in or reaching out, checking in, and don't always make it about performance and stuff. Just be like, hey, how are you? Like, have you found a good coffee shop in Belgium? Like,
No, and I think that's great because there's so many coaches who you hear about who are, I mean, I don't know, I had coaches in high school and even college who were all about the business, and it was like a personality was lacking. But it sounds like with you and your team, you're able to create like a very like fun environment, which is very, very, very focused because they have to basically apply into your program. But when they're there, you're like, we're here to work hard, but we're also here to build rapport and be successful and have a laugh. And that's the implications of that are incredible.
mm. And also, you've got to have a good playlist because in our gym, everyone connects their phone to the Bluetooth. And so, like, if you walk in and there's silence in the gym, it's like you're on.
Do you have any good Spotify playlists that you can plug?
Oh, like my gym time playlist is all over the shop. Yeah, it's got a bit of everything in there. It's got a bit of Natasha Bedingfield Unwritten, and then it's got some drum and bass. I think it's even got some Nickelback on it. So I'm all over the show, but probably Sevens boys seem to like country. The Sevens girls, they're a bit more like old school, like you'll hear like Missy Elliott and stuff. So
Okay.
like each kind of team has like their different kind of nichey music, which is quite interesting.
Missy Elliott. Okay, we could do that. Yeah. Some like G Unit or something. Okay.
Yeah. The Seven Skills are like good for all that stuff. So um yeah, and then the like Steamers boys, that they're very like drum and bass is really big in New Zealand. So like you'll get some very like hardcore like stuff you should only be listening to if you're out somewhere at 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And I installed like a huge like $30,000 JBL system this year. So it's
Oh, okay.
it's horrendously loud, but great. Like it gets the whole vibe atmosphere pumping. So we've got an international sevens tournament on this weekend. So we've got 13 teams out of the centre. So like for the women, it's New Zealand, Australia, Japan, Fiji, and for talent ID teams. And then for the men, it's NZ, Aussie, Fiji, and for talent ID. So it's a huge tournament. It's going to be awesome. But yeah, some bodies going through that gym and some questionable playlists.
Yeah, putting Missy Elliott along with Nickelback in Natasha
Yeah.
Bedingfield. Hey, sometimes I listen to Lady Gaga, and I think that's okay.
Yeah. Whatever's gonna like pump you up for the one thing that I don't understand is like some of the like development rugby boys putting on like real slow reggae at like 5 a.m. I'm like, how are you punching out a lift?
Yeah.
Yeah, like you want to like a little bit of like zip and pop if you're like doing a heavy lift. I'm not like quite sure like the Bob Marley vibes is like what I want to be doing my 1 RM bench.
Yeah, that's for afterwards. That and some
Yeah,
Frank Sinatra or something.
yeah, like maybe in the like plunge pools afterwards. That's like your chill.
Loretta, this has been incredible. Is there any topics that we didn't cover? I feel like we caught a we did a huge range of topics. Is there anything else you want to bring up?
I think that's good. I mean, like we can always happy to have a follow up conversation if there's like some specifics that we want to dive into because I feel like we didn't really go into like any kind of specific training methods for sports or anything, but like happy to have another conversation if that's like something that we want to talk about. But yeah, I
Yeah,
guess
let's
today
run
was
this. It was because of your big news that I was like excited to dig into. I have like about 10 other questions here that I never asked you, but
yeah.
we'll have to run this thing back.
Yeah, no, it sounds good. Yeah, I think like as a whole, like talking about how you can broaden yourself as a coach and just be more open minded and stuff. I think that's going to be the key to anyone in this space's success is making sure that you're asking the people the questions and you're
Flip it and reverse it. That's
yeah.
perfect. Where can people find you and keep up with all of the exciting things you're doing before the next couple of big drops? That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Loretta.